Ground Crew Command Radio. Yes, folks, we're back. It's been rough the past 10 days in particular. We're going to get into the details about that because the clarity, the high-level perspective, once you have it, it will drive you forward. It will push you through anything and everything, regardless of how you feel right now. We're going to get into the details of what's been happening. I have briefly touched on it in the article last night. Also, tonight, solar eclipse meditation. It's building. It's really beginning to build. That's part of what the craziness is all about. And we're going to get into the details about what we need to do. Cobra and Corey have stressed the critical need for all hands on deck on the solar eclipse and what we need to counter. We're going to get into the details of that as well. Also, we'll be playing amazing excerpts from a recent Jolene Seebacher interview held by Taj of Revolution Radio, I beg your pardon. It's information that isn't just right up our alley, but it just couldn't wait till September. She goes into the critical need for internal healing and clearing. She gets into eclipses, the critical role of them and what we need to do towards the end of this pre-recorded interview. And we're going to get into the huge details about that. It's quite a riveting interview. And of course, some details about, let's just say, some confirmation that the Gnostic Illuminati are indeed in control of Trump and most of the military-industrial complex. We'll briefly discuss that. And, of course, a new Corey Goode update just 8 hours ago, according to his Facebook posting. Very interesting and exciting information in that as well. So we're back, folks. Stay tuned for another amazing and empowering episode of Ground Crew Command. This is the Unknown Lightwarrior. You're listening to Ground Crew Command Radio. And welcome back. This is the Unknown Lightwarrior. You're listening to Ground Crew Command Radio. And, of course, you've been feeling it. I've been feeling it. The last 10 days in particular, I mean, it's been going on for a few weeks in the build-up to the solar eclipse. But should we be surprised that it's been this rough? And you know, people around you acting really crazy, just really losing it. Now, we have to appreciate that the breaking down of the Black Stone, and you can find out all about that at Cobra's blog, 2012portal.blogspot.com. I think I got that right. The Black Stone that's located in Long Island, at an underground installation, light forces have finally gotten to it with our help. And they're breaking it down. It's having a huge impact because it's such a huge anchor for darkness in our realm. With that breaking down, there's less for darkness to hide in. And it's been losing it more than ever, as if it wasn't losing it enough already. and it's been jumping into whatever comfortable home it can find in people's unresolved internal stuff. It's been flying everywhere. It's been attacking anything in sight. Of course, to top it all off, as Corey Goode had reported in recent days, the blue spheres themselves are going, almost gone. So more of that purging light is really stinging the heck out of whatever darkness is left, particularly on the plasma plane. That seems to be its last stronghold, significant stronghold. And, should we be surprised? And if you, for whatever reason, haven't been, I suppose, consistently doing your internal healing work with whatever method or non-physical support that works or is robust enough, you're going to struggle. This is going to be a very hard time. Very hard time indeed. Worth it in the long term, but yes, it sucks. This intense stepping up of energetic detoxing, especially when it initially starts to step up, before things reach a new sort of equilibrium, if you will, of energies. It's very hard. So whatever inconsistency or, I suppose, ineffectiveness of internal healing and clearing you may have gotten away with in the past, you won't be now. And I'm sure that's one of the main lessons we've all learned, especially in the last 10 days. It's important to understand that as the energies get much more clear, the unresolved stuff, whether it's internal or external, that were always there, they become much more louder. The contrast increases as the external energies become more clearer. And so they appear louder or more violent, but really they've always been that way. We're just more sensitive to it because of our stepping up with the mastery, stepping up in planetary external clearing, and the natural contrast that produces, that contrasting effect. Now, we're going to, after this amazing interview with Jolene Seebacher, the MK Ultra experiencer, as you can imagine, someone like her, who's in a lot of respects been there, done that, is going to certainly know a few things. And we're very proud to be playing this pre-recorded interview recently because, like I said, we can't, the information here was so good, so critical, so timely, where she gets into all the critical importance of internal clearing, the implications of that, the implications of not doing enough of that, including solar eclipses. We couldn't wait till September, which is her next availability for interviews. And so we're going to be playing this. And after this interview, like I said, I'm going to be pretty much reading out paragraph by paragraph and then analysing Corey Goode new update. That's about 8 to 9 hours long, according to his Facebook posting. It's really big. And once again, I'm going to be going over it to make sure there's, let's just say, proper understanding, proper interpretation. But also, because this sort of stuff, especially with Cobra's and Ben Fulford's updates, it's not just a matter of reading the lines. You have to read between the lines. You have to digest and synthesize the ramifications of what's said. And often what a particular message means, or what has had to have happened, or what in in what sort of position a group must be in to be able to even communicate something simple. So there's a few dimensions to it. Hopefully that made sense. So that's going to be straight after this pre-recorded interview with Jolene Seebacher. And of course, some further details about the standoff, or seeming standoff, at least until the solar eclipse, of, between I suppose the civil war within the Western power structure. You've got, the White Hat factions, the Gnostic Illuminati, and supposedly Trump on one side, and the certain key individuals and the bloodlines of Europe on the other side. And this solar eclipse presents our opportunity to break that deadline, to break this stalemate, to break all stalemates, and just increase the speed to the event. That's what it's about, folks. And the solar eclipse, how many of us raise our hands and steps forward? That's going to have quite probably the single biggest influencing factor about how far we go and how fast we go after the solar eclipse meditation. No doubt a case of all hands on deck. I'll be getting into some more details about that, plus the recent Corey Cobra interview. And we're going to discuss and clarify that the main and much critical message out of the whole interview. And so, without further ado, it's an honour to introduce a survivor like Jolene Seebacher. I haven't been through what she's been through, at least not at the 3D physical current incarnational level. And so it's a special honour to be playing this, and a special salute goes out to Taj, who interviewed Jolene on Revolution Radio. And you can find more of Taj's interviews with MK Ultra experiencer Sarah Adams and others on his YouTube channel titled Taj Investigates. That's T-A-J, Taj Investigates. Or tune into his radio show, The Divine Truth, on Revolution Radio. And like I said, Jolene talks about eclipses towards the end of that interview. So, well done, Taj. This was a great interview, great performance on your part, and getting this information out there. We're honoured to effectively, or literally, have you on our show. So well done with that. That's Taj on Revolution Radio. His YouTube channel is Taj Investigates, and his show on Revolution Radio is The Divine Truth. So a very big kudos to you, Taj, for doing such a great job and at getting this information out of Jolene and to the public for more empowering, consciousness-raising, understanding and perspective. So I'll see you on the other side. This interview goes for an hour. I'll see you on the other side of this interview to discuss all those things just mentioned. Enjoy, make the most of it. It's a fascinating, above all, empowering interview. So without further ado, folks, here's Taj and Jolene Seebacher, the great survivor, and still fighting for the light despite what she's been through. This is the Unknown Lightwarrior. You're listening to Ground Crew Command Radio, and here we go.
My name is Jolene Jojo Seebacher. I was born in 1965 with pretty amazing supernatural abilities, and I was put into a pharmaceutical program associated with the military and government, and kind of built with my supernatural abilities and medication, including injections and things of that nature. The trauma that I had suffered took me into some really, horrible experiences with satanic ritual abuse and sexualized torture. Excuse me. My name is Jolene Seebacher. I was born in 1965 with pretty amazing supernatural abilities, and I was put into a pharmaceutical program associated with the military and government, and kind of built with my supernatural abilities and medication, including injections and things of that nature. The trauma that I had suffered took me into some really, horrible experiences with satanic ritual abuse and sexualized torture, excuse me, but into testing programs with these psychic supernatural abilities. It led me into projects without my consent as a child and prepubescent teenager throughout what I believe is the Atticus Institute in the 1970s, and then something I call the Plum Island Girls, which seems to be a division of this Montauk Boys thing. I had no idea there were boys associated with this program until I came out with my story about 3 years ago. Some of my career took me into the Gulf War, where I remote viewed for soldiers and did some spy work and psychic analyzing kind of work. And I've got a really colorful life. Grew up as a teenager on Sepulveda Boulevard, about 4 blocks down from Max Spears. I've been trying to speak about satanic ritual abuse and missing and exploited children since I've been about 6 years old. And my career kind of took me into the MySpace days. In early 2000, I became pretty famous as a certified master psychic, and what I used to call psychic soul counseling. Took me into a career with some TV pilots on MTV and things like that, and I developed a business name called Spiritual Life Journeys, and that took me into counseling and education on how to and reprogram your brain, your mind control. Doing assessments for other people to see if they might have suffered some program or project kind of survivorship. I teach everything from a level of soul healing through the self-healing, through mental, spiritual, physical, thoughts, emotion, behavior. I teach fundamentals called Foundation, based on energy cleaning, energy mastery, everything to teach supernatural abilities, how to develop them, enhance them, use them, things about dream time training, Jungian dream analysis, and I help people with their kind of soul purpose and how to change their lives. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. It's a big nutshell.
Right, yeah. So what kind of people would come to you for help? Like, what kind of problems do they have?
When I started really speaking out about my MK Ultra days, I began counseling and educating targeted individuals, experiencers, people who have been traumatized through alien abductions or love bite relationships. I do work with program survivors who know that they're a survivor of a hidden, military program. I help people who think they might have been involved. I give them assessments. And then I still work with normal people. I still work with everyday people, including parents, kids who have supernatural abilities and they're scared. They're them. So it's an array of people, Taj. I'm kind of a people person. I spend a lot of money on education, but I've also spent my entire life on research about the mind and the soul and the heart's will. So it all just really kind of came together just several years ago, incorporating targeted individuals. I'd always worked with experiencers. Aliens were just never anything, abnormal. throughout my career. But, you know, today, mainstream, people are talking about alien abduction and these love bite relationships. I've learned a lot through all of my clients, and I'm not only counseling them, Tajinder, I'm teaching them these foundations so they can change their lives as well as their selves, their minds, their behavior, their emotions. So it's really one-on-one personalized counseling with the education of these foundations I teach.
Right. Are you an experiencer yourself?
I am through the Plum Island days. I've never been abducted, but I certainly have had my share of these love bite relationships, which are a very tumultuous relationship, whether it's male or female. There's this strange attraction for the individual. You don't even understand why you're attracted to the person. They might not even be the type you'd be attracted to, but it's this uncanny want and desire to be with this person. And that person might come in very kind at first, but they are pretty much oversold by a Draco type being, and that thing in them can really abuse the individual, can treat them with low self-worth, can even, you know, take their jobs, their friends, their family, their finances. Most people who survive an alien love bite, it's very similar to a handler's relationship. It's very, makes you very broken. And I help teach modules for women, how to learn to speak up again, how to learn to trust themselves again. You know, even the men get it just as bad as the women. So a lot of times I have found a correlation with people who have had a UFO sighting or some kind of dream or experience with an alien. And then maybe within a year, a relationship shows up. Now, it's not always like that. I mean, my love bite relationships were kind of compromised by the handler. That was the husband of mine. I've been through 3 very vicious relationships that were love bite handler type. So either way, a love bite would be a very narcissistic person, someone who controls you in every way. They make up your mind for you. They take your decision making away. They degrade you. They make you feel bad about yourself, and they can rob you from every supporting relationship that you have in your life. You are hated or berated, and there's something inside of you that makes you start to wither away, but you're holding on to a part of yourself that's saying, wait a minute, they're wrong. I know they're wrong. And you have no power anymore because they've really taken that from you. Now, a handler would be very similar to that, but it's more directive based with the handler. It's more duplicitous with the handler, where I don't know if there's a Draco interference in a handler or not. I mean, I'm not that kind of expert I'm not an expert on even explaining the alien love bite. That's Eve Lorgan, her expert, you know.
Yeah. This also links a little bit, I guess, to things like psychic vampires. And I've had, you know, my experience of psychic vampires in past relationships, and I think it is sort of linked in a way to the alien love bite. The kind of people who come into your life are the kind of people who drain you energetically and emotionally and financially and on every level, you know. So I don't know why it is. I think it's almost like they know who to attached to. You know, if you have a certain vibration about you, a good energy about you, they're almost attracted to those type of people. I don't know if that's what you found as well.
Much so, yes. In fact, the psychic vampire usually has some demons inside of that person, or demons attached to that person. Demons match frequencies in people. Psychic vampires can be very narcissistic, Taj. They'll never have the ability to communicate or reason with you. There is also the aspect we have to remember of artificial intelligence and this hive mind and mind control technology through patents like TVs and Wi-Fi and EMP, pulse technology. We do have different things affecting people's behavior. So maybe like a troll type activity, that type of psychic vampire would be more related on the nano artificial intelligence side, where they're so mind controlled through nanotechnology inserted into their, whether they breathed it in through a chemtrail, eaten it through GMOs, or through a patent, through a TV. That would be a little bit different from psychic vampirism. That's the same type of effect that these controllers do want. We have to remember all of these controllers, these evil, corrupt people, they're all delving in Satanism, blood sacrifice, and their agendas are virtually the same. They want to drain us of our negative emotions, negative thoughts. They feed on that, Taj. They feed on that energy of our negative, sad thoughts, our depression, our rage, our, battles, screaming at each other. So AI in an individual or a troll type tech mentality would be different.
Most people don't understand that even on this type of thing, the person doesn't have to be like physically present with you. It can be done like over the internet, over chat rooms, and that type of thing as well. Especially something like Facebook. I found that Facebook does have a lot of negative aspects to it, where people, are trolled and attacked and gang stalked and that type of thing, and that's also linked to this as well.
Right.
You don't have to have that person physically in your life for them to drain energy from you, is what I'm trying to say.
Very true. Now, if everything that I teach goes upon the laws of the universe, or what's called the 7 Hermetic Principles, everything is energy, Taj. We are energy. We're talking it. We're thinking it. We sit on a couch. The couch is energy. Just because we go on Facebook does not mean there's not an energy exchange. The same with watching a YouTube video, maybe on Masons or Illuminati. That's some heavy energy we're watching. So what do we do about disconnecting from the energy from social media or YouTube, or even just a telephone call with a sibling that you maybe have negative feelings for? What I want to teach people is, because everything is energy, we have to clean that energy. So when you get off Facebook, clean your energy off of it. Clean those attachments off your beautiful self. Everybody washes their hands. We wash our food. We wash our clothes. We need to wash our energy. It's very real. Because we can't see it and we're typing doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That is open psychic warfare for anybody to attack you. So let's say you get off Facebook and you're thinking of, somebody that said something derogatory to you. That would be like a psychic attack. You're thinking a thought, you might be having a beautiful night, and then boom, all of a sudden you're thinking about something negative somebody said. That's exactly what you're referring to, energy. Energy coming into your mind and giving you that thought. And I hope that makes sense, because really we have to be so proactive about this.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about your 5 foundations work, and how does that help people?
Sure. My foundations are the basis for whether you're newly awakened or already awakened, whether you're master level or a beginner level. It's all based on energy. There's several forms of energy. The first is called internal energy. Internal is everything about yourself. It's your thoughts, your thought patterns, your thought chatter, your thought forms, your fears, your worries, anxieties, your weaknesses in your behavior or emotions, and something I call career or relationship blocks, destiny blocks. Then there's external energy. We talk about people, psychic vampires, trolls, negative family, and all of their internal energy. We're talking about stores, hospitals, public places filled with people. Then we have the external demonic forces, AI forces, just any kind of negative extraterrestrial force. And we have machinery. So we have different types of internal energy and different types of external energy affecting our lives. I teach 5 foundations. So the first is working with opposing frequencies. Now, everything is energy, And energy is basically a form of sound or light. So we use these tones and frequencies to work for us and to fight against some of the technology. So the first foundation is based on tones and power words and chanting and beautiful solfeggios based on the true wheel, not what's taught online. And then the opposing frequencies would be tones to listen to for artificial intelligence or neural remote monitoring or V2K or pitch tones in your ears or just more Jellens type symptoms. So it's based upon frequency. And even in, the older civilizations, I mean, we could predate this, Egypt and beyond, they used tones for healing, for levitating, for starting fire, for, remarkable things. So frequency is a real important thing.
Yeah,
right?
a lot of that knowledge and technology has been lost, I think, and replaced with almost like a false, things like pharmaceuticals and technology. Like people think that the technology we have at the moment is the most advanced we've ever had in human history, but I would tend to disagree with that. I think that we've been here before, on this journey. We've had far more advanced technology in the past than we have now, and for whatever reason we failed or we destroyed ourselves or something catastrophic happened. People talk about stuff like Atlantis and Egypt and places like that where they obviously had some kind of ancient technology, but what happened to it? What happened to the people who created it?
Taj, I really believe that technology still exists. I saw some of it on Plum Island. I know some of the Montauk survivors have described similar technology. I think, we've been there. The average survivorship of a civilization is about 250 years, and then they kind of fall. Empires fall in about 200 to 300 years, whether it's the Greek Empire, Roman Empire, and here we are today. My country, the United States, has been in effect, over 240 years. I don't think we've perfected anything between economics and technology. I mean, we still have world famine. We have such poor people. The distribution of wealth is just corrupt. We haven't gotten something right yet, and I don't know if it's technology related. I think it's more human condition related, and I think we're being completely enslaved by the technology that's hidden from us, that's controlling some of this negative behavior. I believe these empires in place are doing harm to us people, making us angry, making us depressed, making us oppressed, making us poor. And we were never meant to live this way. So we really need a shift in not just government and not just money. We need a shift in the human condition to get back to, compassion and love and joy again. I mean, we were born to be happy. We weren't born to be depressed or angry, so I believe they hide a lot of this tech.
Yeah, I think we almost sort of need a shift in human consciousness, I would say. I think the way that things are at the moment, more people need to wake up and realize what's going on. I think there are a lot of people, like us, people who listen to this show, who do know what's going on and do know, can try and do something about it, but we're in the minority, I think.
There's a difference between having knowledge, doing research versus being awakened. I think New Age has really kind of distorted what awakening and what ascension is. So awakening is definitely waking up to knowing that, we've been lied about education, history, genetics, religion, even language, education, everything. But awakening is also an awakening of yourself. Who are you? What about you as an individual? Do you like? What don't you like? What is it that needs change in you to continue this awakening? The ascension is this missing part. The more the individual works on themselves, learns better behavior, learns different thought pattern, learns different reaction pattern, that's where ascension happens. Your soul ascends, your heart lifts, your pineal gland opens more. And it's different than having knowledge. All the knowledge becomes easily available to you. And it's a quest, it's a lifetime kind of quest. But a person with a lot of knowledge can be a dangerous person if they're not changing or evolving inwardly. Now we have this huge disinformation act in play between, Obama leaving office. I mean, the Bilderbergs just had a huge meeting in June, and they brought in Google and Microsoft and AT&T and all of these news conglomerates. So we know news on the internet is corrupt.
Yeah.
Where I come in, and I've been teaching for 17 years, that it's about self-healing. I'm not knocking any healer out there. Believe me, I think everybody needs guidance and help with everything they could possibly get help with. But what I really believe is it comes down to your own self-healing, whether you're going to get a nutritionist to help you with that, or somebody to teach you meditation, somebody to teach you energy cleaning or energy mastery. I believe it's a self-healing. Heal those negative thoughts, heal those brain patterns, those thought patterns, heal the negative emotions, heal the negative behavior or the reactions. Self-healing is what I will always stand firm in. And I really hope it's the new paradigm for the millennium. I mean, that's the book I'm writing, and those are the foundations I'm teaching. And, frequencies, is working with opposing frequencies is just one of the 5 foundations.
We were talking, I think it was yesterday, about some of the work that you do. You do like an assessment where you go through is it like 90 questions?
It determines the type of abuse that they've gone through, their personal history, their family history, any type of groups that they've ever been involved in, or their families, whether it's military, government, or just a club, even Knights of Columbus, Daughters of Job, whatever. I ask about any experiences as a child that were paranormal. Did they have near-death experiences? Were they ever had surgeries or taken medicine young? What kind of birthmarks, or even right down to have they ever suffered sleep paralysis? I ask questions about tattoos, Ouija boards, different types of beings that they might have seen, and I always ask about shadow beings. I ask about any experiences with the alien or UFO kind of stuff. I also ask questions relating to these programs, with Monarch and satanic ritual abuse, anything from sexual abuse to promiscuity to hypersexuality, pornography, night terrors, feelings of being watched. I mean, these questions are really to determine if the person may or may not have been through programming, and also to help them connect dots, as well as have what's called an awake regression. They are able, by the middle of my session, to start remembering things that they haven't thought of in decades, or they forgot about for decades. And the regression continues after we get off the phone. So it can continue for months. They could have flashes of memory. They could have dreams of experiences that they'd forgotten. And they could continue to have regression. So they journal everything from, do they remember black and white floors, spiral staircases, all kinds of fantastic things that help the client put answers together for them. I mean, sometimes they're right in front of the person and they didn't see the connections. So the assessment is really a great way. it also helps the person determine, wow, I can't believe I really know my soul's purpose. I've never really thought about it that way, but I've always wanted that. Oh my God, they're so happy. So we can also determine their psychic abilities in that assessment as well, whether they want to develop them, enhance them. No, it's really easygoing. The person is safe with me. They have to sign all these non-disclosure and confidentiality things so they feel safe. Our sessions are so private, and it's really one-on-one. And by the second session, it's fun now. It's fun to teach them the foundations, and they have a zest that they want to change different things in their lives. So it's kind of fun to go through a couple of sessions with me to learn the foundations. Each person thinks so differently. They each have different fears and worries and anxieties. They all have one in common. It's usually money is real. Everybody's always worried about money, relationships, but each person has different weaknesses, different destiny blocks, different types of problems. So their deprogramming is done by themselves. That is with my third foundation called Peptide Pep Talk. That's actually a bunch of self-talk using certain brain waves. The assessment session is just an availability for the client to have their own control over regressed memories that help them connect the dots, puzzle pieces together, gives them answers for themselves. I'm not doing anything but asking the questions, and they're actually doing their own memory recall, which is, I think it really opens up the synopsis of the brain. When we first start the questions, it's yes and no answers, so the brain calibrates. So by the middle of the session, then they start remembering, oh my God, I remember this when I was 4. Oh my God, I remember this when I was 7. Oh, I haven't thought of this in 20 years, Jojo. So they're doing the work in their own brain to regress themselves, and they're in full control over it. There's no hypnotherapy, there's no hypnotics. They're awake, and we're both, together. So it's safe, and
right.
It continues when we get off the phone. So they stay in contact with me and they ask me questions, and I'm by their side once they become a student. It takes about 4 to 5 sessions completely. You can spread them out as far as you want. You can put them in blocks. Some people go on to mastery level stuff. It's at the person's desire to want changes. So if they want, fast changes, they work hard. They do a block with me. A block would be like 3 sessions in a row. I give discounted rates for blocks. My sessions are $65. The assessment session is $110, but I do blocks. I do 3 blocks for $195, and it's altogether about 5-hour sessions per piece. It's 4 to 5 hours a piece. So they're long sessions, but they go fast. And your notebook becomes your best friend. I mean, it'll give you everything to protect yourself, to deprogram, to reprogram, to, just have life changes, physical changes as well. I mean, I've had women lose weight, just by talking to themselves. So, this is personalized. Whatever the personal struggles are, we work on.
Okay, I want to move on to another subject. I've seen you talk about a lot on Facebook, the satanic ritual abuse calendar. These are basically dates throughout the year where certain rituals are performed. Like a common one is something like Halloween. It's quite a common one. But there are also dates throughout the year, every month, where certain rituals are performed, like satanic rituals on. It can be on anything like cosmic alignments and eclipses, lunar eclipses, solar eclipses, or just ritual dates. Do you want to explain what they actually do on these ritual dates?
Well, there's several calendars that you can go online and look at. Originally, this was set up to keep control of the elites to keep the blood magic going, to feed whatever these Draco Anunnaki type beings are, these ancient bloodlines, these ancient Egyptian and Mayan bloodlines, etc., even Atlantean bloodlines. These are actual dates that are your normal holidays: Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, but they're all based on something that are completely opposite of what we're celebrating. Family, friends. This is a perverse thing, and the Satanic Ritual Abuse Calendar was created by a group of Satanists to infuse a 6 and 7 week cycle into humanity. So on the 13th week, it would cause the chaos, it would cause the rebellion or the destruction, whatever that they wanted, whether it was a blood sacrifice week or a sex magic week. These are spell castings used against the entire population. Now, eons ago, with the satanic and doctrine and Bibles and so on, these people had placed a Satanist throughout America anyway. I'm not certain about England. I'm not the expert over there. But in America, a Satanist was brought into every town, every small town in the United States. They're almost like sleeper cells, but they're not sleeper cells. So these people are doing rituals every day to, now I'm not saying all pagans are evil, all people who practice witchcraft are evil. I'm talking about the satanic ones who serve Satan and all of these other evil deities. These people want power. They want to feed off of our energy. So they may cast a spell for your region. There might be a demon assigned to your region or your county or your state or whatever, your segment, whatever they're called in each country. So they can imbue depression, gang war, sexual perversion, murder, rapes. So it can feed these demons. And it seems so unrealistic, but it is happening in every town. Every town has covens or sectors, regions, covens of people, and these people are not meaning well. They're killing animals, killing babies, and making us more depressed, more angry, more erratic, more trolling, more acceptable to no empathy. I mean, lack of empathy. So it's really kind of a frightening thing. But this is where, yourself comes in. But nonetheless, Taj, this is done on a daily basis. Now, the Satanic Ritual Abuse Calendar is set up on a 6, 7, and 13-week cycle. There are plenty of former Satanists out there that can explain each of these rituals or each of these holidays that we're celebrating. So, sometimes knowledge can be a really scary thing, and it's unfortunately driven me not to celebrate any holidays, which is, I don't have family here in my state anyway, but it is kind of sad how we're told, it's these beautiful things, and you find out what it's really about, and it's really shattering. It can shatter a person. This is really where fear can take a person. Now, everybody is scared to be hexed or spell casted, and honestly, it's probably one of the easiest things to overcome if you have this faith in yourself that you are untouchable and not going to fear, that depression, or you're not going to allow that depression. You're not going to allow those thoughts in you. Everybody has this potential in them to supersede over anything. Now, we own this spark of God inside of our body. I teach it as God, source, soul, self. It's the very first thing I teach every student. And having faith in that power, I mean, what more protection could you want? What more strength could you want? And once you know how to really listen to it, you really can conquer anything from a demonic attack to a troll. And it all comes down to this faith and changing in yourself. So, yeah, it's scary stuff, but we can beat it. We even have Illuminati scouts out there trying to recruit people. I have a friend right now who was not struggling, but he was really kind of angry about it, but they were trying to recruit him for this quote-unquote organization that would remain nameless, and he was trying to get advice on what to look for and what kind of questions to ask this guy. And I mean, this is a sickness. The Illuminati will offer a person $300,000 just to join. I think money can corrupt an individual. I think even notoriety can. One thing that I have to check, and all people speaking on the circuit need to completely always check themselves. It's not the notoriety that matters. It's and to others it is, Taj. They want the money. They want the comic books. They want the TV shows. I'd rather just come natural. When I did the History Channel, I got paid $200. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the notoriety, but it is a very tempting thing to a young person.
Let's start off with some of these questions from the chat room first. The question is, I went out with a super soldier and I could not remove what I call a demon from them because he would have been nothing. I tried to replace the demon with me rather than himself. Was it wrong that I left him like that?
I think the first thing is, if it's a she, I would say the first thing is you can't pull that demon from that person. He's got to come to the acceptance that he's under mind control and begin working on his own deprogramming so he can face whatever that demon is. I think you would be taking on a huge responsibility trying to take on that demon for yourself, because it could cause you a lot of danger, not only emotionally, mentally, sleep-wise, health-wise. I don't think there's any guilt she should hold whatsoever. She did it in love, it sounds like, and she tried the best, and we can all be responsible for ourselves. So she should let go of the guilt and know that she did the best she could, and for him to heal on his own. And if they're meant to be together, they'll be able to work it out. He'd want to have to get help though. And
he would have. Yeah, he would have wanted. He would have wanted to get the help if she had to do all the work. It doesn't really work like that, does it? Really? But
I would recommend her to clean her energy as well. Get rid of any attachments from him. Clean those attachments off of her, even if it's just jumping in the shower and claiming no more attachments on her. She tried to attempt something very dangerous. So it sounds like she has a lot of love, but we can only fix ourselves.
Yeah, I think even trying to when you're interacting with things like demons, you have to be very careful. Not everyone can.
No, you have to shield.
You have to protect yourself, shield yourself, and when interacting with demons, they can be very deceptive and try and get into you, kind of thing. So you have to be very careful with that.
Very much so. Those demons can also come to you in your dreams. They can impersonate people. They can impersonate loved ones, celebrities. They could do damage in a friend, a child, for instance, your neighbor. It takes a lot for somebody who works with demons. They have to know at least 12-dimensional shielding. They've got to know energy cleaning protocols. I mean, they've got to understand demonology to even be working with demons. So, she was very brave to even attempt that, but I would highly urge, she remove the attachments off of her. What a lovely girl to even try to attempt doing that. It sounds like she had a lot of love for this person, but she definitely remove that guilt.
Okay, the next question. How can we further connect with those as a collective or a whole? Is Jolene establishing some kind of retreat and or meetings where many can come together who are like-minded?
That's a great question. Actually, I'm taking the month of August off because my schedule has been so inundated. What I plan to come back in September is doing a lot of group phone calls with students. Unfortunately, you have to go through an assessment session because I have to make sure you're safe to be with everybody else that's been through it. And not everybody goes into these groups. You have to really be screened, so I know you're not a abusive person, you're not going to harm anybody, and you can have true friendship in these groups. They will begin in September, and my whole syllabus is changing over. So yes, that is going to happen. And in the meantime, I do know Misha Johnston. She runs a website called Starseed Awakening. She has a group for MK Ultra and MeLab people. She takes via donation. It's like a $5 donation, and it's a group kind of talking if somebody wants to go right away. I'm all about healing and protection. If you heal what's wrong, it will manifest. So if somebody has been broken in a career, for instance, maybe they're not getting enough clientele to them, what is causing that breakage? Is it that they don't trust you or they don't accept your information? You've got to heal the trust or heal the acceptance, and then the manifestation comes. There's a book by Franz Barden. It's called Initiation into Hermetics, and anybody messing with it needs to know how responsible you are once you open that gate. So please read that book and understand what you're doing before you go and do it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's another area you have to be careful with, isn't it? With sigils.
Yeah, sigil work, anything without knowledge, and you go and attempt it, just like you're, maybe like a simple spell or a circle binding. If you have never done it before, you must get expert advice before delving into any of this by yourself. Now, I do recommend drawing your own sigils for yourself and sometimes sending them into the Bardo to do your bidding, or setting protection on. I write them on my skin like little tattoos for protection, for healing, but never ever for gain, ever. I mean, that's magic 101. You don't do for gain, you do for healing and protection.
The extraordinary powers that MK Ultra people have, is it true? However, do you think that is a rise in consciousness? So do you think the powers that people are getting, these abilities, are down to MK Ultra, or is it just due to the rise in consciousness of people?
That's a really great question. I'm glad that person asked. My whole life, I've been telling people everybody have these abilities. Everyone has psychic intuition. Everyone has empathy, which is a form of psychic ability. It's feeling. Everybody has kinesis skills. Everybody has telepathic skills. I believe the MK Ultra programming was more for to exhibit alters in people to go and do these illicit, non-consensual acts of violence, or whatever it's been throughout anybody's career. With me being a remote viewer, an analyst, and a spy, some people are sent to be assassins. I believe that's a different type of completely different subject than a person having natural abilities. I wrote a book in 2013, and I almost finished it, and I was robbed in 2015. It was all about supernatural development, enhancement, and implementation of these hundreds of abilities we have. Every one of us have it, and that is our power. That is the reason why these controllers, these evil elite people, want to oppress us in our mind. They want to shut that pineal gland down and your heart's will to be so weakened by sadness or anger that we're not using these abilities. So, brilliant, brilliant question. Thank you.
Yeah, I did a show recently, a couple of months ago, with Mary Rodwell, and we talked about the star children, who are basically they're born with these abilities. They're born with like full memories, past lives, and these abilities, but they're also targeted by these military programs because of that as well. Because the military want to know, how are these people getting these abilities, and they want to basically weaponize their abilities.
And I should have clarified that, right? So I'm going to be 52 in September. So my age group would be like the indigo form of star seed. And we are exploited for those abilities coming in with past life memories. I mean, my past life memory started as a little toddler, you know, with a blonde-headed, toe-headed boy, blonde boy, you know, swimming under, being able to breathe under the water. So, you know, we don't know what these abilities are, but I helped several parents, even in my own community, with their own little starseed children. I mean, my own daughter was born with these intense abilities, so they do get exploited. I think the programs on my age group and older than me were more physical, whereas the younger super soldiers are used on an astral or dream time level versus, you know, my age group, like Randy Moggins, Duncan O'Finian. I think Max is a little bit younger. I mean, he's like 11 years younger. My age group has more of the physical trauma than the astral kind of trauma. Yeah. So we get exploited, and military do use people who have these abilities. Now, mind you, anybody on the planet can be trained to remote view. You don't need to be a psychic to remote view. They can take an average, ordinary person. In fact, most who are remote viewers started out as average, normal people.
Yeah, you can go online to the Farsight Institutes. I've been following them for a number of years, and they actually teach people how to remote view.
Yeah, they have a different technique. I think one of the newer techniques that they teach. I think there's a branch off of the Farsight Institute that also teaches a different form of what I was taught is controlled remote viewing, and then there's HRV. Then there's two or three other forms of remote viewing. Mm. You know, I think you're right, Taj. So many starseeds get exploited. They're MILAB, the military laboratory experiments. They're harvested for those abilities. But these starseeds have something, these children, these teens, even these young adults, and it's really a sparkling beauty about them, and gorgeous. You know, I think it's gorgeous to have that sparkling beauty. You know, those big, gigantic eyes and this zest for joy.
The question is actually, what are your thoughts on Max Spears? How can we cloak ourselves and increase our spiritual protection, shielding and defense when targeted people like Max and many others have basically died? So, I mean, Max was he had abilities and he was able to shield himself and protect himself, but in the end, you know, it didn't help him. So if people like Max, you know, can be killed, then, you know, what sort of chance do others stand?
In respect for young Sarah, whom I admire greatly, and Max's mom, Vanessa, excuse me, I feel Max was surrounded by very dangerous people. Had he not been around those people, I fully believe he would be alive today. I believe Max could have protected himself had he not been around those people, and he did try to get away from those people, unfortunately, unsuccessfully. Now, the way to learn protection and shielding protocols is to first learn about energy. Learn about the way how energy works. Learn what it is. Learn those many different forms of energy, internal energy, like I first spoke about in the first half of the show, and external energy. Once you get used to those forms of energy, you can know how to clean the energy. You can either take classes with me, or you can go to, excuse me, it's a terrible allergies. There's a man named Cameron Day who is very inexpensive like myself. He teaches similar to me, but I teach a little different. Some things very different, but we're pretty much the same. Learn energy cleaning, learn shielding protocols, learn how to master yourself, the self-healing on the level of your mind, your thoughts, the patterns, the chatter, the thought forms, your weaknesses in your behavior, your emotions. If you can master yourself, you can conquer so many of these attacks, whether it's black magic, gang stalking, even electronic harassment. There is answers for everything, whether it's internal herbs and detoxification programs, frequency tones, or, my 5 foundations. There is always going to be a way. Now, I believe Max the people surrounded themselves around Max. Max was obviously trying to get away. I teach people something called 6 heartfelt virtues. It teaches the people how to express and communicate so effectively. Based on these virtues alone, the first is appreciation. It's learning to appreciate anybody for whatever level that person is in. The second would be understanding, putting that person's shoes on and wearing their shoes and understanding. And this is whether it's positive or negative. The third would be compassion, having compassion. Maybe you've been through that level that person is at or experienced something that person has experienced. The fourth is humility, being able to apologize, being able to accept self-responsibility. The fifth is forgiveness, being able to forgive someone who might have harmed you because you do have appreciation and understanding for where they're at. And the sixth and final thing is called valor, and that's having the strength in all those virtues, as well as the balance state in yourself to carry yourself through any form of communication, whether you're expressing or listening. So boundaries and principles are exceedingly important. And, this is soul level healing, soul healing.
The next question is, what do you do, Jolene, for higher DNA activation? Yours is high, but obviously one can go higher. Simple things. I like to correct food and spinning and singing. Are there any others that you can think of?
Yes. These frequency tones I refer to as chakra tones. You can sing frequency tones. You can ingest monoatomic golds. You should clean your digestive system. Detoxify your digestive system. It will help your pineal gland. I do not believe in galactic activations. Maybe somebody says, oh, okay, there's a planetary event. You get to have a galactivation. I think the individual must work for their ascension. It's everything from meditating to learning to control your anger, learning to control like road rage or jealousy or envy. Your DNA gets activated on a structural level by the mitochondrial and the cells changing as well. How do you do that? You do it through your neurological process. The brain emits these chemicals called peptides, and the peptides feed every cell in your mitochondrial and everything inside your body. Your thoughts give your cells and DNA the same memory. So if you're thinking negative, like the majority of people do, the average person thinks between 40 to 200,000 times a day. 90% of those thoughts, 95 even, are negative. So all of that negative talk in your brain, the thoughts, are feeding your cells and mitochondrial. If you want to change the thought process, the levels of rage, jealousy, envy, whatever, chattering even, this will change the cellular structure. You have got hundreds of trillions of cells that you can molecularly change with your own positive thoughts. So when a negative thought comes in, talk back to it. Talk diametrically opposite to that thought. You can drink water, sacred water. Sacred, that water, I don't call it blessed because it's etymology based, and I think blessings is blessings. So make your water sacred. Study some work from Dr. Masaru Emoto. Sacredize your water. Activate your cells with EZ water. That's EZ, exclusion zone water. You can add gold. You can use certain crystals. You can tape like Herkimer diamonds behind your ears or on your pineal gland. You can use purple skeletal cords for your pineal gland. There's so many ways to raise your frequencies. But in order to change mitochondrial DNA, you've got to work on the neurological, because the neurological chemical feeds those cells and your DNA. So it begins at the brain and the heart's will.
What type of protection techniques can you use, from things like psychic attacks, even things like witchcraft, black magic, whatever you want to label them? So if someone like casts a spell on you, someone hexes you, how do you protect yourself from that?
Well, the first thing I want to tell everybody is, if you go and buy something at a store or a yard sale, for instance, before you bring it into your house, cleanse that object. I don't care if it's brand new or not. Cleanse the object, remove all the attachments off of it. Learn energy cleaning. There are so many ways to protect yourself and clean your energy. If you're going to use sage, make sure you study the Native Americans and sacredize the sage before you light it. Make sure you use it directionally. You can use salt and rubbing alcohol candles. You can use water, salt, and vinegar mixtures. You can use plain glasses of water. You can use water sprays. You can learn energy self-defense from me. You can, if somebody's hexing you, you'll know what's going on. You have to know the object that's hexed, or the area of your home that's being hexed, or what's being hexed. Once you can identify what that hex is, you can break it down, remove the attachments, clean the energy, claim your sovereignty, and put shielding in place. The more you clean your energy and claim sovereignty and use shielding, the less you're prone to attacks. Attacks will even roll off of you. They won't affect you. So it's really learning. I believe the key is in cleaning your energy, and I've been teaching it through a 10-step energy cleaning system, through using opposing frequencies, through sacred water, through a therapy I call peptide pep talk, which is self-talk, specific dialogue used with different types of brain waves, and you keep changing the brain waves, but it's done in a progression. And also to learn something about dream time training. Now I teach a class on dream time training. Individual spends the majority of their life sleeping. I mean, we're asleep more sometimes than we are awake. We spend half of our lives sleeping. During the sleep time, we're dreaming. We're in bardo levels, astral levels. We're above and below. If a person's being abducted, for instance, wouldn't you want the power to say, no, not going to take me? Or, if somebody is harming you in your dream, don't you want the ability to have strength? So I would recommend everybody clean their pineal gland, clean your body, meditate, and learn how to clean your energy so you can learn to bring your consciousness into the dream time state. So you have authority there. Because when your body dies off, when your physical body dies off, your soul then leaves. Your soul consists of a part of your consciousness and your life force, part of your heart's will. And that's what's going to move on. So if I'm strengthening my consciousness and my ability in my dream time levels, when my body dies off, I'm hoping at least that I'll have more power to say, no, I'm not going to be reincarnated again. I'm going home to source. There are hundreds of things out there, folks. We're not lost here.
Yeah.
We're powerful.
Okay, I've got another question coming. This is actually something we were talking about the other day, Jolene. The question is, what does she think about the upcoming eclipses? So this is next month. There is a lunar eclipse on the 7th of August. And then there's the big one, the solar eclipse across the US on the 21st of August. What do you think of the significance, or what, do you think anything will happen around these eclipses?
I just did a show with Terry Joyce on Tuesday, It is about Chris Cornell and the black hole sun, this solar eclipse on the 21st. I can't add into the lunar eclipse because I haven't really been doing much work in that. Since Chris died, I just dabbled a little bit into the gematria of it and the black hole sun. What the black hole sun represents, this total eclipse, it represents the Eye of Providence and that triangle in the middle of Orion. In the center of those three stars are what's called the vortex. It's known as the creation of souls, where souls are created and where souls go when they die. I did an extensive kind of interview with Terry that would better explain it. In the time that we have, I wouldn't be able to explain it very well, but I do believe this solar eclipse event is being used to either implement something with the New World Order to secure famine, war, and angry nations to come together to really try to finish us off. But we're a strong, awakened community or neighborhood, as Helen said. We, no matter how bleak things look or scary things seem, we still have our own capability to not succumb to this evil. And even if we die in the process, we have our souls. They can try to get our minds, they can try to get our depression, but they will never take your soul. And they can't take your mind and your heart if you don't let them. Now, this lunar eclipse, I couldn't give an honest answer, and I'm terribly sorry. But if anybody wants to study the black hole sun, this solar eclipse, you can pull up the Terry Joyce interview. It's labeled Chris Cornell. It was done on July 25th of this year. Or you can look at a wonderful video by Danny Wilton called Black Hole Sun, S-O-N. And it will really explain what Orion and that center vortex of creation is to bring in the war, the famine, and the angry nations on the 21st. These elites have been planning this for 99 years. So it's going to be a big event, big Satanist event.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was reading an article today about it, and it will actually be, there'll actually be a black sunrise. You know, so the sun rising, will be actually black because the eclipse will already have happened as the sun rises. So it'll be a very unique event. And,
Taj, this hasn't happened in 99 years. They have been planning this for 99 years. So, these are brilliant people hiding ancient scribe from us and books and knowledge. These are brilliant, evil executors of these evil plans. So I do believe this scary event on the 21st, what we all must do is go into a sacredness in ourselves. Even if you have to jump in a bathtub or a pool all day to stay high vibratory. So what people do for prayer, I ritually rhyme. You must stay in the highest vibratory. Do not talk smack talk. Don't gossip or complain. Stay elevated, people. Speak prayers for humanity and mankind. Speak beautiful words to prevent whatever these evil creeps are trying to do to us, to bring in the famine, the war, and the angry nations. Look into those videos, either the Chris Cornell one with Terry Joyce or Danny Wilton's Black Hole Sun. I urge people to stay high vibratory that entire several days, including the eclipse day and the lunar eclipse as well, because I'm certain it's all part of it. They use gematria. They use the Fibonacci ratio, which is God's number language. I call it the fib of chi, the lie of stealing energy. We must use our power to vibrate excessively high through August 21st. Look, these Satanists have been planning this for 99 years. This is an unusual event, like you said, rising black sun, setting black sun. Please look at the Danny Wilton video at least, folks. It's only about 37 minutes. It will explain everything to you about that event. For these New World Order elite, evil Draco, Anunnaki, to bring in and try to secure their Agenda 21. That is my theory. Now, we can denounce this. We can hold vibratory fields for the Matrix, for your brothers and sisters, even your enemies. Love them. Pity these Satanists. Forgive them. Offer love. Do whatever we can to mess up their energy with our beauty.
Do you see like anything happening later this year? I mean, this sort of happens like every year where people come up with dates, the things that are going to happen. I mean, I've heard on the Eclipse that there's going to be some kind of civil disobedience or civil war break out in the US, or around that date. And then I've also heard something about September 23rd being another date where things are going to happen. But this happens every year. Are you worried about anything this year in particular?
No, we can't see what happens. And anybody who proclaims X is going to happen on Z date or whatever, have we ever seen it? We didn't see it with 2012. I mean, look, it will come in like a thief in the night. We don't see the energy happening. So the spell casting takes place. False flags go up. I don't worry about dates, folks. It's just causes more anxiety, and it's feeding the negative. So I wouldn't go by those prophesized dates.
Okay. We've got one last question. I think we're going to finish in about 5 minutes, but this is the last question. Some of the information is not meant for many to digest. How do we awaken the masses, or do we just connect like minds and awaken those that want to learn?
That's a great question too. Now, everybody says, oh, it's so difficult to wake people up. What I suggest is this. When you meet someone, or you're talking to a neighbor or a sibling, for instance, you want to ask them, what are their passions? What do they wish they could have done all their lives? Maybe that person wanted to be in architecture. Maybe the person wanted to be an actress. When you can find out what their passions are, like in architecture, show them a video on Secrets in Plain Sight, for instance, which will show architecture, which will show geometry, which will show him or her to awaken. Show them reality. It can wake that person up. Maybe the person wanted to be an actress. Show them some videos on, the Illuminati and mind control victims. You can really be creative on how to wake people up. It doesn't have to be shattering either. Do it gently. Maybe somebody is really active about, passionate about 9/11. Maybe introduce them to U.S. patents and documents on sound weaponry and what might have taken those towers down. You can do this gently and without anger, without arguing, without somebody calling you crazy. Just by finding out what that person loves, what their passions are, what their interests or hobbies are, there will always be some kind of truth media video about it. Well, that would be scary. That would shatter their whole reality. That would shatter their religion and their faith. It would shatter their structure on how they eat food or take medicines or give vaccines to their children, or to even know about the missing children and the Satanism. That might be a good place to start, because everybody cares about missing children and children being exploited. That's a wonderful topic to bring up. And actually, that is the topic that should be brought up, is missing and exploited children. Even in the United States, each state statistics don't even match the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I mean, there is a big lie going on. So maybe start out with that, with missing children. Why are there so many missing, unfound children? And why do statistics differ from country to this national organization representing these children? Why are they lying? So, and bring up the Franklin cover-up, or the Hampstead cover-up, or the thing that happened in Amsterdam recently. Maybe awaken them about the children. Everybody's interested in children, and it can't be denounced. That might be the answer. Start with the kids.
Yeah, good idea. We're going to finish any minute now. Do you want to give out like your contact information if people want to work with you, or they're looking for someone to help them? How do they contact you?
Right now, my contact is only through Facebook. I'm having a website rebuilt from 2008 that's too old. Jojo Seebacher, Seebacher. You can private message me and ask for session work. I will be counseling and teaching again in September. I usually have a 1 to 3 month waiting list. Right now, it's about 2.5 months. I do have fill-in and emergency appointments available, but private messenger for the time being.
Okay, folks, there you go. That was Jolene Seebacher. And need I say any more in terms of the critical, pivotal, tumultuous event it's going to be for the planet on the 21st of August 2017, the solar eclipse right across the heart of America, which was always intended to be the resurrected Atlantis per the founding fathers, who were positive Freemasons, not negative ones. And again, the good old US of A, the first ever constitution based on freedom and the pursuit of happiness, is going to be the center of the action once again. And Jolene Seebacher said it brilliantly, which she said the Cabal, the bloodlines, have been waiting for this and planning for this for 99 years. Because these guys do think very long term. And it's, to put it in the most euphemistic way possible, they will be going all out with their human sacrifice rituals, invocations of whatever darkness they can master. Let's just say it's within the quantum field of probability where they will try false flags to send people's consciousness in a negative state. They'll probably trigger it on the 20th, so it'll be all over the news and people talking about it the following day. And it's up to us to stand the awake and aware, the Lightworkers, the Lightwarriors, the Starseeds, and simply those who have chosen the light. That stands between them and Gaia and humanity. That's it. We're that thin red line. They can totally clean house, by the way, especially if we reach the critical mass of 144,000 on the 21st of August 2017. Because the other thing to realize, this is quite probably the Cabal's last shot to muster enough through the power of this solar eclipse event. It's really their last chance to muster enough magic, invocation, sacrifice, what have you, to have a hope of turning things around for them. And you heard her speak about the black hole sun, an allegory, symbolic allegory towards, or symbolism in reference to the solar eclipse, but also that vortex that's apparently between that 3 stars in the belt of Orion, or in Orion, and they know what to focus on. They know what to concentrate on. They're going to focus on that black vortex between those 3 stars in Orion. They're going to invoke. They're going to, in the middle of some sort of a blood sacrifice ritual, at the peak of the victim's terror, they're going to do the invocation then and there. And how unsuccessful they will be, how successful or unsuccessful they'll be, will depend on us. Period. Time for the army of light to arise. It's as simple as that. Be there. Get the solar eclipse meditation videos, this interview, anything that stresses the importance of all hands on deck, the solar eclipse. Spread it out to anyone and everyone you know. Now's the time to be active. And again, as I've said with so many other radio shows, if you're struggling yourself, access the resources. You've got Jolene Seebacher's website to go to. I'm sure you'll find it pretty easily if you Google it. I don't have it in front of me right now. You've got, of course, our sponsor, Return to Your Truth. Utilize these resources. Some offer very affordable help. Take action. Don't take things sitting down. Raise your hand to take that big step forward. And, a couple of months ago, I wrote an article for an old radio show saying, global mass meditations, still the most underutilized weapon of Lightworkers and Starseeds, which is very true. Now, Cobra and Corey, in their recent interview, just this weekend that just went, they stressed that mass meditations is the biggest weapon we have. And we need to counter those Luciferians who will be doing those human sacrifice rituals to try to swing things the negative way, to then therefore, the energetic effect of which will be able to help enable them to manifest war, famine, chaos, volatility, what have you. We're the army that has to stand up. Now, so please spread this. This interview will be, the recording of this interview will be live in about, 40 minutes after we finish in half an hour, and just spread it. It's a fantastic interview by Jolene. Such a brave soul, such a survivor. Now, let's go over quickly Cobra's update, just to make sure we understand what's going on and how serious things are, and the opportunity that awaits us, okay, in no uncertain terms. Now, this is 10 hours ago. It's on facebook.com/Blue Avians. It's a few posts down now. And it begins with update summary, full update to come. And this is talking from Corey's perspective. I have recently had meetings with a highly placed contact. I met him in the FEMA Mass Casualties Response course when I was still in the Texas State Guard. He stopped talking to me when I began cost of disclosure. He suddenly contacted me again right after the elections had concluded. He shared a cluster of intel with me before going dark again, until now. Now notice how he contacted him right after the elections. So that's just another indicator or demonstration that Trump being elected was actually a victory for the White Hats, who thankfully controlled him, because it was safe for him to contact Corey again after the elections had concluded. After the elections had concluded, okay, they saw that we can now do this, that, and the other. I had reported that there were teams of U.S. Special Forces that were conducting domestic surveillance and investigations of a satanic group that had infiltrated all aspects of government, agencies, and the military. These Special Forces teams had been in place since the middle of the election cycle. He gave me this report about a week ago and contacted me again, stating it was important to get some out of it to the public. Another reason for reading it out word to word here. I was informed that a secret report on how pervasive these infiltrations are is more shocking than what was expected. Strangely, this report also had notes from several secret grand juries that are active right now in DC. Interesting. They've got grand juries into this. The report states that the conspiracy involves the majority of powerful people within the UN, EU, US, state and local, city power structures. Remember, this is the majority of powerful people within these organizations. These government organizations are completely complicit in what is going on, all the way down to local post offices and police officers. I have to tell you, this was a very creepy report. These military investigators, so this is good. You know, this now it's really coming up. I mean, it might sound, shall we say, disheartening and kind of scary and you know, a little depressing, but it's actually good that because this is coming up now. It's like what's been happening energetically the past few weeks, especially the last 10 days. This is coming up. It's good that this is coming up now, because now you know what you need to shine the transmutational light of your consciousness on. You can't solve a problem if you don't know it's there. These military investigators, in other words, White Hat faction of the Pentagon, have expressed their shock and anger to their superiors, as well as their desire to take them down. That's good news. They report that it is so systemic that they are at a loss of how to counter and defeat these people without a military coup, which would involve US special forces and trusted, quote-unquote, military contractors that come from alliance countries and are already in place in the US. And we've heard all sorts of stories in the past, years ago, about Russian soldiers being in the US, under Denver Airport and so forth. That'd certainly be one of them. Some of these special forces investigators have been removed from the investigation because they are highly suspected as being involved in torturing and killing some of these new low-level pedogate suspects. Well, I can understand the anger. The scope of this cult takeover of government is shocking to even the people that think they have seen it all, including myself, being Corey. These investigators can't figure out how the government was infiltrated to such a degree. So, they're in shock, horror, and shall we say, a wee bit disheartened as well. But initially, that's how things are. We will adjust. Again, these military guys can totally kick butt and clean house with our energetic support. They need our backing. They'll happily risk their lives and take the physical 3D action. But especially if we get together and you know, shine the transmutational light of our consciousness on this, primarily and mostly through global meditations. They need our backing, folks. Don't let them down. We continue. I also recently met with Gonzalez and Kari. Great. Gonzalez told me that if North Korea and the US go into a war, it would most likely be a way to disclose a new aircraft or weapons platform. Okay. I'm told that if these unacknowledged weapons platforms were not used in a first strike against North Korea, that nothing could be done to prevent tens of millions of people from being killed in Seoul, South Korea. Note, we have been threatened and told to stop reporting on the ICC, which is the International Corporate Conglomerate, interplanetary corporate conglomerate, research and development facilities and spaceport in Antarctica. Okay, so obviously the Cabal's not happy about that. We should not be surprised if we see more saber rattling between Cabal-controlled and alliance countries in near future. As I already reported, according to Kari, the Ansha are going to be meditating with everyone during the eclipse on August 21st. Kari didn't even try to hide the playful smirk she had when discussing the meditation. Awesome. It brought her out of the anxiety that she was wearing on her face just prior. The Ansha are obviously excited about this mass meditation event. And boy, will they be excited if we pass critical mass, which is 144,000. This mass meditation seems very important to Ansha. So, as many of us are meditating on peace and a positive timeline for humanity. Little grammar problem there. So shall be the Ansha. Okay, understood. So as many of us are meditating on peace and a positive timeline for humanity, so shall be the Ansha. She did say that this eclipse has potential to be very positive, yet the energy could be hijacked by the negative side, who will be raping, torturing, and sacrificing children. Okay. Again, where the thin red line? Let's make it an extremely thick red line where no negativity can pass through. And we just overwhelm them with light and our free will. He continues, I guess as many people as we can muster for this mass meditation, the better. In brackets, reporting the info, I do not agree with all of the positions in it. In reporting the info, I do not agree with all of the positions in it. This report demonstrates how important a mass meditation focus on peace and disclosure is. 3 exclamation marks. Sign off, Corey Goode. Okay. So there you go. All the subterranean civilizations, let alone Galactic Confederation, ETs, Blue Spheres, SSP, are all watching this. There's been a lot of, both on the non-physical planes, physical planes, the dimensions, non-physical dimensions, out throughout the solar system, there's been all this jockeying into position, moving the pieces of the chess, or the chess pieces into certain positions ready for this. It's almost like, the prelude to the D-Day landings in Normandy. All this preparation, all this moving of personnel, equipment, physical and non-physical, trying to activate as many and clear as many vortex points, grid points on the planet as possible. And now that's been happening as well. So, the stakes are high. You can feel it. And it's not only up to us to counter the terror and trauma and pain that the Luciferian network and bloodlines will try to inflict on that day, but also to completely transmute, smother, overwhelm them. Easily done if we pass critical mass of 144,000. Now remember, there will be at least that many Luciferian and Satanists participating in rituals on that day, and perhaps the night prior, because they tend to build up to things as well. So, to use military analogy, man your battle stations, or choose your own analogy that works for you. Start building up your energy for this. The guided meditation, and I do have a bit of a problem with the word meditation. It's more like energy work, proactive energy event. But anyway, the global meditation, the videos for that are on YouTube. Just go to Cobra's blog. I'll be sending out a broadcast in the coming days, certainly prior to the solar eclipse, with a link to the YouTube video. But just go to Corey's Facebook page at facebook.com/BlueWavians /BlueWavians. You'll see the video there. Go to prepareforchange.net. Okay, who did the interview with Corey and Cobra just this last weekend. They got the video there. It's on YouTube. We'll make sure you get the correct one. So, it's all happening. It's all happening. It's a deciding energetic battle. Raise your hand. Take that one step forward. And choose with all your heart what you want. We're the soldiers now. Now, there's been more, I suppose you can call it confirmations, about how the so-called Gnostic Illuminati, who've been fighting the bloodlines, the Cabal, in other words, for how many thousands of years, they do appear to have, let's just say, for the sake of being conservative, majority control over Trump. The Congressman, Republican Congressman Scalia, is it Scalise or Scalia, a few weeks ago, who was shot at that baseball practice in Alexandria. Him and 3 other congressmen, they were just in the process of passing anti-human trafficking legislation to fight the rings, the pedophile rings. And the Cabal activated a MK Ultra victim who was the one that shot him. So people are getting hurt. There are deaths involved. The military investigators, primarily special forces, who were doing these investigations into the infiltrations by the Cabal, Luciferian networks into government and the military. They're obviously, understandably, having a lot of trouble controlling their rage, as explained by Corey's recent update. So, in other words, they're traumatized as well by what they're finding. And that's all the more reason to throw our full weight of energetic support behind their backs so they can cope better, do their duty, and uphold their oath to the Constitution that, according to Cobra, Saint Germain and the Ascended Masters had a hand and influence in having it written. I suppose, to use mainstream religious terms, this is a holy war. Primarily an energetic war, more than a physical. But needless to say, things have gotten physical. And it's up to us to drastically reduce the amount of time and increase the amount of energetic healing and smoothness of all of this chaos that's coming up. I understand. Believe me, I do understand what it's like to get battered and bruised from internal and external stuff coming up as the, increasing and stinging light from the cosmos and the central sun comes in more and more. But it's just a matter of holding your nerve and sticking with it, focusing on what you want, being clear on what you want. Get clear on what you want to see happen after the eclipse. Seriously, this is effectively a metaphysical visualization process. And using the 80-20 rule to, relaxed background kind of way, have that background focus of what you want. In other words, 80% of the time focus on what you want, 20% of the time shine the light of your transmutational consciousness on things that need to be resolved, dealt with, shut down, transmuted. That's what we're here for as light workers and light warriors. If you're the goddess type and stillness is your thing, please channel, increase, and I mean drastically, by orders of magnitude, increase the amount of goddess energy that you pull through your grids into this realm, into the grids of Gaia. Ramp it up. It's needed. So, what a timely interview that was by Jolene Seebacher. She spelt it out quite clearly how critical and massive this upcoming solar eclipse meditation is. So, I will touch on briefly on a bit of news that's still just as pertinent and critical as ever from last week. All right. Let me see here. This solar eclipse, because when I talked about all these forces, positive and negative, being moved and jockeyed into position for that critical date of the solar eclipse, essential to all of this is moving into position, reaching critical mass, in order to also dissolve the primary remaining blocks to the event and the freedom this brings to humanity and the unconditional multidimensional freedom for those of us who are ready for that. We've also had the Chinese with their quantum teleportation link between low Earth orbit that Cobra reported is being used very effectively in clearing the plasma anomaly between low Earth orbit and the surface, accelerating the process of compression breakthrough. Those are his words exactly. And the point is, how can we truly capitalize on this to take absolute advantage of it to accelerate the removal of its primary blocks even further? Obviously, the first answer is spread the news and demand the participation from everyone you know with the solar eclipse. Spread this link, spread whatever information, the guided video. This radio episode goes into, explains it well, how critical it is that as many people show up to demand our freedom on that solar eclipse meditation. Spread it far and wide, folks. Now, the other point I need to make is it gets even more interesting, simply because we're in the physical, okay? We're incarnated here. This means that when we do energy work and project ourselves via our consciousness onto the non-physical planes, we can do things that no one else can, that even our ET family can't do. Big light beings can do in a sense, but they have to do it through us. That's the important thing to realize. Both they and our ET family can only do certain energetic acts through us, through our field, because we're anchored on the physical, that they need access to work through. Now, we've been programmed to think that we're powerless in the physical. Now, true, our power in the physical itself is limited, but when we go to or project ourselves onto the non-physical from the physical, through our physical bodies, I'm telling you, we're absolute terrors to darkness. John Kettler years ago said the same thing before he got taken out. Because certain things can only be done from the physical. And that includes things like soul fragment retrieval, by the way, for your own self-healing. You can only do it while you're in the physical, if you're incarnated here. And the more you know this and allow yourself to accept this and experience it, the more power opens up to you on the non-physical plane, on the energetics, to effect and action much more change and transmutation, and thus accelerate and even smooth the path and the road to the event, that final breakthrough. So please know this, okay? Once the recording of this episode is up, which will be in about 10 minutes or so, spread it far and wide. Tell people to read it. And of course, if you're struggling with the energies, do what you know to do. Meditate, do whatever clearing you've been trained, that you've learned over the years. Go to Jolene Seebacher's website. Go to our sponsor's website, returntoyourtruth.com. $40 will get you phase 1 of the 4-phase exponential healing and clearing system. Very affordable but powerful resources are there. Use them. The more clearer you are, the more clear you feel, the more healed you are internally, the more light naturally shines through you, the more light you can channel and have a bigger impact on D-Day, 21st of August, 2017. Now, to finish off, as it's been reported the previous week by Ben Fulford, there is somewhat of a stalemate with the struggle over power in the West. We got Queen Elizabeth, which is the Saxe-Coburg and Gotha bloodline, Pope Francis and German Chancellor Angela Merkel are the European bloodline's frontline pawn, while the Gnostic Illuminati control both the Trump presidency and the US military-industrial complex, both of which are being used to purge the deep state in the US and fight the bloodline families in Europe. And so, as I said, a standoff in the West between the European royal bloodlines, represented by the Pope, the Queen and Merkel, and the Gnostic Illuminati, represented by Trump, is where it's at the moment. And the goal here, folks, in case you haven't worked it out yet, is to break that stalemate and break it big time in the most profound way on the 21st of August, 2017. Will you be there? Undoubtedly, history in the making. And you would want to be able to say, I was there. Years later, when this whole thing is over. I was there. This is a great moment in history. It's up to us to step back into our soul path and purpose. Big time on that moment. And do what you were here to do. You incarnated here, way back in Atlantis, for the most part. There's plenty of ET souls that incarnated here after World War II for the first time on this planet, but the majority of us are old, battered and bruised, wounded warriors since Atlantis, because we've been here since Atlantis. So if you have to, grab a crutch, metaphorically speaking, and move back into your soul path and purpose, where your power lies. Utilize the resources at hand to strengthen yourself, to move a lot closer back into your true identity where no one can touch you. Utilize the power innate within you. Arise, because this is your moment. Wear the thin red line that stands between all those human sacrifice shenanigans you're going to be doing and humanity and Gaia. Will you stand up? So spread this link far and wide. Spread everything about the solar eclipse meditation far and wide. This episode really makes the point clear and explains the critical need for you to be there, standing with us side by side. This is the Unknown Light Warrior. You've been listening to Ground Crew Command Radio, and I'll see you next week, same time.